Today we're installing a MODZ Nano or Slim battery in a Club Car Precedent 2008 to 2014, as well as Tempo and Onward models. Some small variations may exist, but the process is the same. We've listed the tools you'll need on screen. Go ahead and double check you have everything before getting started. Alright, first things first, let's power on the battery. Once it's on, go ahead and scan the QR code on the battery to download the MODZ app. From there, it'll prompt you to update the battery if needed. If an update is available, go ahead and complete it. While the update is running, make sure your phone stays charged and connected to the battery the whole time. If it disconnects midway through, you could run into issues. Start by setting the parking brake, turning the key to the off position, and switching the run tow switch to tow. Then go ahead and put on some rubber gloves for safety. Next, remove your factory batteries. Since every car can be a little different, check your owner's manual or look up a quick video for your specific setup. Remove the 4T40 Torx bolts from your cart's trim, then go ahead and take out the floor mat. Take a moment to clean out your battery tray and the floorboard where the floor mat was. Now remove the 4T30 Torx bolts at the front and rear of the seat base, circled in red. Next, let's remove the old charging port. Use a small flathead screwdriver to carefully pry off the outer ring. Then remove the 3 T40 bolts securing the trim panel. After that, lift the seat base and move the lower trim out. You should now be able to detach the charging port by taking out the 3 Phillips screws. Next, remove the T40 Torx screw located on top of the controller plate. Then slide the plate forward. Take a few pictures of your cables for future reference. Follow the charging port cables back to the controller panel. Disconnect the negative charging port pigtail and the main negative cable from the motor controller B negative terminal, as shown on screen. Once those are removed, you can pull the old charging port off the cart. Disconnect the top row of cables from the motor controller to access the negative terminal, as shown on screen. Remove the negative terminal bolt, then disconnect the ground cable attached to the negative cable. You can now remove the stock negative controller cable. Install the new negative cable from your kit where the old one was. Make sure the smaller round end goes on the controller, not the larger squared end. Once that's done, reconnect the cables you removed earlier and set the negative cable aside. Next, let's move over to your solenoid. If your cart has a diode above the solenoid, make sure you leave it in place. If not, you can continue as normal. This is also a good time to replace your solenoid if it's not working. The one on this cart was bad, so we swapped it out with one of our MODZ solenoids later. For now, we're keeping it stock to keep things simple. Remove the positive cable from the solenoid using a socket wrench. Then disconnect the smaller red wire attached to the main positive cable. Once that's done, go ahead and pull the positive cable out completely. Next, we're going to make a run tow switch adapter cable. Your kit may already include one. If it does, go ahead and skip to the timestamp on screen. You'll need to source about 6 inches of 12-gauge wire, a female spade connector, and an eyelet connector. You can find these at your local hardware store. Using a wire crimper, attach and crimp the eyelet and female spade connector onto the wire as shown on screen. After crimping, give each connector a slight tug to make sure they're secure. We'll call this your run tow switch adapter cable. Connect the female spade end to the red run tow switch wire you removed earlier from the positive cable. Next, grab the new positive cable from your kit and install the smaller round end where the old positive cable was on the solenoid. Then place the eyelet from the run tow switch adapter cable onto that same post. Start the nut by hand, then tighten it down with a socket wrench. Next, let's bypass the onboard computer. If your cart doesn't have one, go ahead and skip to the timestamp on screen. Unplug the 6-pin connector, then loosen the 2 bolts securing the onboard computer plate to the larger metal plate. Once loosened, slide the plate upward and remove it from the cart. Using snips or wire cutters, cut off the 6-pin connector from the onboard computer and set it aside. Then use a small flathead screwdriver to remove the terminal lock so you can pull the wires out of the connector. Remove all the wires except for the blue and white ones. Then reinstall the terminal lock back onto the 6-pin connector. Strip the ends of both wires, then connect them using a butt splice connector and crimp it tight. Now reconnect the 6-pin connector back to where you removed it earlier. At this point, you can discard the onboard computer panel or reinstall it for a cleaner look. We chose to leave it off. Reinstall the controller plate using the T40 Torx screw. Next, let's get your battery tray ready. We've included a template in the box to help you plan your battery placement. Keep in mind, you may have added other accessories in your tray. We can't account for every accessory out there, so for this video we're showing a clean install, but the battery and mounting brackets we include are designed to be flexible. If you have any questions about fitment, feel free to reach out to our team or check out the compatibility chart linked below. Let's start with the nano battery install. If you have a slim battery, go ahead and skip to the timestamp on screen now. Place the template on the side of the cart where you want your battery. We recommend the passenger side for better weight distribution. Mark your holes, then drill them out. We recommend using a metal drill bit since you may be drilling into the frame. Place your battery in the tray. We recommend positioning the nano battery with the charger mount facing inward to leave room for the charger. That said, set it up in whatever way works best for your cart. The charger can also be mounted elsewhere if needed. Insert the included 13mm bolts through the battery feet and into the holes you just drilled. In our case, we only used 2 bolts since parts of the cart body were too thick in certain areas. That's perfectly fine and will still secure the battery. If you want to use all mounting points, you may need longer bolts. Under the cart, secure the bolts using the rectangular washer and the 13mm serrated flange nut. Then tighten the bolts from the top side. It helps to have someone up top while you hold the nut underneath to make sure everything tightens down properly. Using a socket extension will make this a lot easier. In our example, one of the bolts lines up with the I-beam of the cart. We reached into the I-beam and slightly lifted the bolt while installing the serrated flange nut. Since the nut is tightening against metal, you don't need to use the rectangular washer here. If you're installing one of our slim batteries, the install is a little different. You'll need to use a plastic cutting tool to remove the center section shown on screen. Some carts won't have the larger plastic dividers like ours. In that case, you'll just need to remove this smaller section here. Locate your battery mounting brackets and insert 2 carriage bolts into the slots shown on screen. Secure them in place with the plastic retaining washers. It's okay if they move around a bit, we'll adjust them shortly. Next, take the included J-bolts and add a rectangular washer and a 14mm serrated flange nut. Then hook the J-bolt around the metal bar in the hold-down access slot, with the opening facing the front of the cart. Move the battery mounting plate under the rectangular washer so it lines up with the hold-down access slot. Then hand tighten the nut, making sure the rectangular washer stays centered across the channel on the mount. Repeat those steps on the other side of the battery tray. Once that's done, your setup should look like this. Take the included battery template and line up the holes for the battery feet with the carriage bolts on the mount. You can slide and adjust the brackets to dial in the perfect fit. Once everything is lined up, tighten down the nut while holding the rectangular washer in place. Now, place your battery onto the 4 carriage bolts. We recommend installing it with the terminals facing the back of the cart for extra clearance. Make sure to carefully move your wiring harness out of the way so the battery isn't sitting on any cables. We routed ours to the left side. Batteries are heavy, so we recommend having a friend help you with this step. You can now secure the battery using 4 13mm nuts on the carriage bolts coming through the mounting bracket. Start by hand tightening them. Then use a ratchet with an extension to fully tighten them down. Now it's time to install your state of charge meter, also known as your SOC. If you have the LCD model, you'll need a 2.25-inch hole saw. If you have the LED model, you'll need a 2-inch hole saw. Choose a spot on your dash to mount the SOC meter. On our test cart, there was already a hole from a previous gauge, so we used that. The install steps will be the same regardless. Depending on where you choose to mount it, you may need to remove your dash panel first. Use a Torx bit to remove the bolts. Ours had 3. Once those are out, pull the panel down to release the clips. For us, it was easier to leave it in place. Grab your SOC meter and remove the 2 thumb screws on the back to release the bracket. Insert the SOC meter into the hole you just cut. Make sure it's oriented correctly. The small indicator on the front should be facing up. Now reattach the bracket using the thumb screws. Make sure the small notch on the bracket sits above the cable for a proper fit. Double check that the SOC meter is secure and won't come loose later. If you have the LCD screen, go ahead and connect it to the quick connect cable, making sure it's lined up properly. If you have the LED version, it already has a longer cable built in. Route your SOC cable behind the dash, then reinstall the dash using just the clips for now. From there, run the cable through the floor cable channel, following the existing wiring to the opening into the battery tray. Continue routing it up to the battery and plug it into the SOC port. Don't worry about cleaning up the wiring just yet, you may need to disconnect it again later. You can now reattach your dash using the Torx screws. Now let's install the charger. If you're following along, you can slide it into place and secure it using the 2 socket head bolts included. If you're mounting the charger somewhere else on your cart, you'll need to use 4 screws or bolts to secure it by the mounting feet. Now go ahead and reinstall the lower seat base trim and the seat base. Once that's back in place, reinstall your floor mat, then finish up by putting the 2 kick panels back on. Now let's install the charger and the charge plate. For this step, you'll need the small self-tapping screws along with the bolts, washers, and nuts included in your kit. Feed the charge port through the charge port plate and orient it so the hinge sits around the 5 o'clock position. Attach the charge port to the plate using 2 bolts, one at the top left and one at the top right. Secure the bolts using the washers and the 7mm nuts. We used a Phillips screwdriver and a socket to tighten them down. Feed the new charge port through the opening where the old charge port was. Use 5 self-tapping screws to secure the charge port to the cart, 1 in each corner of the plate and 1 in the hole below the charge port. Grab your charge port extension cable and connect one end to the charger. Then route the cable over to your charge port and plug it in. Make sure both connections are fully seated and secure before moving on. For safety, double check that your battery is turned off. Remove the terminal covers, then grab 2 terminal bolts from your kit. Take the positive cable from your charger and the positive cable coming from your cart's solenoid and secure them to the positive terminal using a 13mm socket. Make sure the thicker battery cable sits under the thinner charger cable. Repeat the same process for the negative side, connecting the negative battery cable and the negative charger cable to the terminal. Grab your charger's CAN cable and connect it to the CAN port on your battery, making sure it's oriented correctly before plugging it in. Now let's make sure everything is working. Flip the run tow switch to run, then turn on your battery. Check that your SOC meter powers on and that you hear the battery beep. You can also test the sleep button by turning it off and back on. Turn your cart's key to the on position, then test forward and reverse by lightly tapping the pedal and switching between the two. Once you've verified everything is working, turn the battery in the cart back off and take a moment to tidy up your wiring. And just like that, your battery is fully installed. We know you're ready to hit the road, but take a moment to follow proper battery care. Use the included 16-foot extension cord to charge your battery to 100% before your first ride. While you wait, check out the MODZ app and explore features like scheduled charging, max charge settings, and more. Don't forget, your battery also comes with a lifetime warranty. Be sure to register it within 60 days of receiving it. As always, if you have any questions about the install or battery care, feel free to reach out to our customer care team. We have trained battery and electrical engineers ready to help. See you on the road!